Let's talk about charging, baby. Let's talk about AC and DC. Let's talk about charging, yeah. Oh, hey, I was just getting in the mood to do some charging videos. Well, I guess you caught me. Let's do one. As you've guessed, we're going to do a little bit of a video on charging today. I've been threatening to do it, and so we're going to go ahead and get started. There's a couple terms I want you to understand as we move forward. So I'm just going to talk about those briefly, and then we're going to jump into talking about level 1, level 2, and DC fast charging, and what the differences are with examples. So here we go. You'll notice here on the screen, I've written two different items for you to look at. AC and DC. These are two terms that you're going to hear quite frequently in this video. And so I just want to cover what they mean. So first off, AC refers to alternating current. And what does alternating current mean? Well, I've got what's known as a sine wave here to demonstrate alternating current is what we find in our homes. It's the power that comes out of our wall outlet. And what it means is that the intensity, that I, remember the flow or the amperage, our power, is changing direction every 60 seconds. Or excuse me, it's changing 60 times every second. My bad. That's early. So alternating current means that our intensity, that flow, is changing directions 60 times a second, okay? And this is, again, the power you find in your home. DC power, on the other hand, stands for direct current, direct current. And what does that mean? Well, it means that same intensity now, instead of changing directions 60 times a second, just flows in one direction, from positive to negative. It's always going in one way, hence direct current. And so why do I bring up these two terms? Well, you just need to understand AC power is what we find in our homes, and it is a alternating current. And DC power is what we find in batteries and our electronics and in our electric vehicles. So there is a mix of these two in the equipment that we're going to talk about, and I just want to make sure that we're familiar with both terms. So again, AC power is your household wall outlet power. DC power is the type of power you get from a battery. All right, with that taken care of, let's move on to the next subject. All right, so the first one we want to talk about is level 1 charging. But before I jump into talking about level 1 charging, let me just again tie these two terms we just finished talking about together. Alternating current AC and direct current DC. So again, why is it important you understand those terms? Well, because you're going to be charging your car, likely at home most of the time if you have that availability, or at different charging opportunities in the level 1 or level 2 variety that I'm going to talk about. And those all utilize alternating current, or AC power. So you have to understand, the car has an onboard charger built into it to handle alternating current. On a Tesla, that onboard charger is a 48 amp maximum charging ability. So the AC charging of these EVs is built into the vehicle, and the equipment that you get, the EVSE, electric vehicle supplying equipment, is just like a really smart extension cord, and I'm going to show you that example. So the car has to do a couple things. It has to be able to convert alternating current to direct current to store in the battery. And then the car also has to be able to take that direct current that's stored in the battery and turn it back into alternating current for the motors, because the motors on an electric vehicle use AC power. So you have batteries, motors, and then we have to do things called rectifying and inverting the power. Okay, so again, I don't want to get too much in the weeds, but I want you to understand that there are a variety of things happening, and you have two different types of power going on inside your vehicle. You have DC power for the battery, and then AC power for the motors, and the cars have a built-in charger that takes AC power and converts it to DC to charge the battery. And that is what level 1 and level 2 charging is, connecting to an AC power source and charging your battery that way. So let's go ahead and get started and look at what level 1 is. So I've written level 1 charging here on the sketch pad. Level 1 charging is 120 volts AC power, so your standard wall outlet. And it is a very, very slow charge. In fact, I'm going to show you what it looks like to have the Tesla connected to a level 1 charger and the charging rate. But before I get to that, let me just share a couple things with you. I always carry an extension cord with me when I travel. So when I get someplace where it's really hot, let's say Arizona, Nevada, and I'm staying in a hotel or whatever, I can plug the car in to a 110 outlet using my extension cord, and while I may not get a whole lot of charge on my battery, I can run my air conditioning and keep the car's interior cool without negatively impacting the distance that I still have left on my battery. So that's a great function that level 1 charging offers that I like to use when I'm at hotels. So let's go ahead and get out of the car and see what level 1 charging looks like and see how fast it actually is. Okay folks, and here we can see the EVSE, or electrical vehicle supply equipment, that I got with my Tesla. This is more than adequate for everything that we need to do. We never bought a wall charger. We simply used this mobile charger that came with the Tesla. Now you will have to purchase them going forward. I believe they're about $200 to $250. But again, excellent option, and it works it does everything we need at home to keep our car charged. Now I'm going to show you the differences here between level 1 and level 2. So I'm going to set up a level 1 charge, and then we'll see how fast it is. So again, this is not the actual charger. It's just like a really fancy extension cord. The box here is smart, and it is able to tell what kind of power consumption both the car wants and is available at the outlet. And so it will regulate and take care of your power needs. So here we see a standard wall outlet adapter, and it just plugs into my equipment just like that. Okay, so then I just simply plug it into the wall outlet, and we look to see if the little Tesla lights up, and it does not. So this outlet may not be working very well. So let's go find one that is working. Ah, the joys of home ownership, huh folks? So here I have another outlet. Bear with me just one second. All right, and now we're plugged in, and you can see, let me bring this up here, you can see the Tesla is lit up and it's green. So that is telling me that I have a good ground and my connection is solid. So let's go ahead and plug it into the car. Again, level 1 charging here, folks. All right, so it's that easy. We've connected the car to our fancy Tesla extension cord, and we can see that we are charging. Let's go inside the car and see how fast a level 1 charge really is. All right, the car is going to ask us if we want to start charging. I'm going to say yes. Go ahead. And up here on the screen, we'll get our indicated charge speed. As you can see, we're going to have a 12 amp maximum, and we're doing 1 kilowatt hour, or excuse me, 1 kilowatt of charging. So 1,000 watts. Remember, if we do our math, folks, we take our 116 volts times our 12 amps, and that gives us our kilowatts. You can see connected on a level 1 charger, an AC level 1 charger, all level 1 charging is AC, we would have 14 hours and 45 minutes to get to an 80% state of charge. So to charge up 18% would take almost a little less than an hour a percent. So level 1 charging, folks, as you can see, is incredibly slow, but very, very handy if you're in a hot area and you're staying someplace and you don't want your cabin to overheat. Again, I just connect it to an extension cord, and I find an outlet typically on a power pole in the parking lot of the hotels I'm staying at. The Tesla electrical vehicle supply equipment, the fancy extension cord, as I indicated, is super smart. So I have a 100-foot extension cord, and when I connect that to an outlet and then plug in my Tesla cord, The Tesla box is smart enough to recognize that there is a voltage drop because of my 100-foot extension cord, and it will derate this even further to keep the heat down. So I have seen only 9 amps at a level 1 charging using my Tesla equipment because of an extension cord. So that's another thing to keep in mind. Okay, so that's level 1 charging. We've seen how incredibly slow it is, but you can do it at your own home with just a handy standard outlet. And if you don't use your car on a daily basis, it might be a good option for you. So let's go ahead and take a look at what level 2 charging looks like now. All right, hey, let's talk about level 2 charging now. Level 2 charging, not too much crazy different than level 1 charging, except you're using a higher voltage. That's the only difference. We're still using alternating current, but now instead of using a 120 volt wall outlet, level 2 charging is 208, 240, and it is much faster. We're going to see an example of how much faster in just a moment when I plug in the car. Now, I will tell you that my setup at home, I use what's known as a NEMA, National Electrical Manufacturers Association, NEMA 1450 plug. A 1450 plug is a welding outlet. It is a 50 amp rated receptacle and a 50 amp rated female plug. And so that's what I use. I'll show you what it looks like, but it's just a welding outlet I picked up at my hardware store. I had it installed onto a spare 50 amp 2-pole breaker in my panel, like what you would use for your dryer or a furnace. I had a spare 50 amp, and so I connected it to that, and then I ran it down to below my panel to a standard welding outlet. This serves me perfectly. I have every bit of charge I need in the morning. I plug in when I get home from work, typically 4 or 5 o'clock in the evening. I have the car set to start charging at night, so it doesn't start charging typically until 9 or 10 o'clock at night when rates are lower. And it is always charged up to 80% for me by the morning. And I'm typically pulling into home with between 15 and 25% because I commute to Bellingham every day when I'm teaching. So, excellent option. Didn't cost me much. I was able to do the installation myself, which you'll see. It's up to code, but it isn't beautiful. And yeah, you really, depending on what your need and use case is, don't have to spend tons and tons and tons of money on a wall charger when you can get away with just using the fancy extension cord they give you or sell you with the car. So let's get out and see what level 2 charging looks like and the kind of speeds we can expect. All right, welcome back. So we're talking level 2 charging and the actual equipment in an example. And you can see here, I've got my NEMA 1450 outlet, and it's connected to my panel. And then down below here, again, we've got our Tesla electrical vehicle supply equipment with a NEMA 1450 end. I just pulled out the 110 adapter I had, and I put on this one. So we just plug this bad boy in to our outlet. We can see that our Tesla has lit back up and we don't have any indicated problems with our charger, or excuse me, our fancy extension cord. And so now we're going to walk over to the Tesla and we push this button on the handle, our door opens, and we get connected. It's that easy, folks. So now let's go ahead and see just how fast we're charging now that we've connected ourselves to level 2. And remember, this is how I charge almost all the time at home. The car asks us if we want to start charging. I'm going to say yes. Go ahead. And let's look up here and see what we have cranking. So the car is indicating we have 246 volts available, as I talked about with level 2, 208, 240. And we are going to crank up to 32 amps, folks. Now, why is that a big deal? Well, I'm connected to a 50 amp outlet, but again, it's a smart extension cord, so it's not going to run that outlet at 100% capacity for the entire time because that would make it overheat. So it derates itself a little bit down to 32 amps. That way it's nice and cool, it can operate continuously, and we have no issues. So a 50 amp NEMA 1450 outlet will give you, depending on how you have everything connected, about 32 amps. That's what I'm doing. And let's look again at our time remaining. And isn't that a huge difference, folks? 2 hours and 40 minutes now to charge up to 80%. We're going at 8 kilowatts. and we're doing a full 32 amps. So you can see the benefit of a level 2 charger. It makes it much, much faster when you're at home and your car is ready for you when you get up in the morning or at night if you work night shifts to take off. Now there's one other type of level 2 charger I want to talk about, and that's the publicly available ones that you would roll up to and plug into at places like Safeway at Volta or ChargePoint or some other places around your city. My town of Anacortes has many of them. So you're going to take a trip with me now to go see what a public level 2 charger looks like and that experience with the Tesla. All right, join me in a little bit. All right, hey, welcome back. Now where are we at? We are at a public level 2 charger. This is a ChargePoint charger, and ChargePoint is a company that provides charging, so companies, businesses, municipalities can buy the chargers from them and then install them and run them themselves. So when you come upon a ChargePoint charger, it's likely owned by the business or municipality of where you're at. So don't get mad at ChargePoint if it's not working. Odds are it's the business that has neglected to take care of it. All right, so let's hop out and take a look. We are very, very fortunate in Anacortes to have multiple public charging all over the place. And so where am I at? Well, I'm at my Anacortes Public Library, wonderful place, and I am going to be using this ChargePoint charger right here. Again, this is a level 2 charger, and we'll be plugging in the car. Okay, folks, so we are going to get our adapter out. We've seen this adapter before, and we've got it right here. Again, this is a J1772 to Tesla. And here's our ChargePoint, so we can look at our price, and we get the first hour free. So we're going to go ahead and just unclip our handle here. Hopefully. This is a brand new charger, so everything's a little bit stiff. There we go. All right, no cuts. No edits, right? So we've attached our convenient adapter to our charger, and then we just push on our flap on our car and we plug right in. All right, folks, so we have plugged in. Let's come over here and take a look. And it says to get started, sign up in the ChargePoint app. All right. Hopefully we don't need to do that. I have it signed up, but this is one of the problems with public charging is it can become a real pain. All right, the car says ready to start, but I need to follow some instructions before it will. So let me go ahead and bring up the ChargePoint app, get started, and then I'll be right back. All right, folks, so I opened up the ChargePoint app. The app is pretty handy. It uses GPS. It recognized where I was at. It asked me, do you want to start charging at this charger? And I'm going to say yes, start charge. It's connecting to station. And hopefully this doesn't take forever. Again, you can't beat Tesla's superchargers. You just plug right in, walk away, everything works. With these public chargers, it's a little more complicated. All right, it says we can plug in now. And we can see that our charging session has started. So not terribly painful, but you know, a little bit of a complicated endeavor if we didn't have the app. So we can see here, folks, level 2 AC charging. We're at 208, 204, about 30 amps, and we've got about 3 hours, 3.5 hours remaining to charge. So I was even charging faster on the level 2 EVSE equipment that I had at home than I am here at a public charger, but we're not going to complain about free juice, right? And the great thing about level 2 charging is if they have these and they start installing these everywhere, then wherever you go, grocery store, movies, the mall, you can top up and get a charge. And so you don't have to necessarily have all of this high speed direct current charging available if people can top up their cars at public places while they're running their errands. So folks, you've seen level 1 charging, we've seen level 2 charging both at home and on a public charge point station. And so now I'm going to take you on a quick ride with me to a supercharger in Burlington to see what that experience is like, and to talk about the third type of charging, DC fast charging. So we've talked level 1, we've talked level 2, and now we're going to talk DC fast charging by heading to a Tesla supercharger, talking about that experience, and then we'll wrap this video up at an EV Go, and you can see what that looks like and what a CCS plug is for other cars that aren't Tesla. All right, thanks folks. Hey, and welcome back. You are joining me at the Burlington, Washington supercharger. As I promised, I'm going to show you now the third type of BEV charging, which is DC fast charging. So we have covered level 1, 120 volt wall outlet charging, level 1. Level 2, 208, 240, higher amperage AC charging. And now we're going to talk about the third type, DC fast charging. And why is there a third type? Why is there DC fast charging? Well, as I talked about, AC, or alternating current, is what's coming out of your wall outlets or your panel at your home. And the car has a DC battery. So it has to do some conversions from AC, which is called rectification, to DC to charge the battery. But for the fastest possible charge, we want to eliminate that transmission step or that transfer step, and we're going to do what's known as DC fast charging. And this is where we charge the car directly to the battery using direct current. It's the fastest way to charge the car, and you're going to find for Teslas there are two types of charging opportunities. Well, more than two types, but the main types you're going to run into are superchargers level 2, which are older superchargers that can perform at about 150 kilowatts. And version 3 superchargers, which are much newer, which can provide up to 250 kilowatts. So we're going to go ahead and get out, we're going to plug in the car, and we're going to see how fast it charges. And we'll talk a little bit about charging etiquette when we do that. So let's get started. What are we going to do? Well, it's easy enough. I've already backed into my spot. We just simply open our charging port. And we're going to hop out here and grab our Tesla charger. Now you'll notice the way this end looks. This is proprietary to Tesla, and it is the way all of their plugs will look. Now currently, Tesla supercharging is only available to Tesla owners, but in the very near future, they're going to be opening up these superchargers to everyone, so you can charge here with a CCS car or a Tesla. So very, very cool. The opportunity's coming up in December for people to charge at these. So let's go ahead and see now what our charging speed is, and then we'll talk a little bit about etiquette. All right, so we have the car connected. We're at about a 49% state of charge, and as you can see, we are getting 96 kilowatts, and we are putting in about 360 miles an hour. We have approximately 25 minutes until we have reached our charge limit of 86%. So much, much, much faster, folks, much faster. So we're going to go ahead and disconnect, and we're going to go ahead and move on down the line, and I'm going to show you now what CCS, or the non-Tesla DC fast charging, looks like. So join me on the next trip as we head over to a EV Go or a Electrify America. All right. Hey there. Okay, we are at the end of our journey. We have made it to the Walmart in Mount Vernon, Washington. Unfortunately, in fact, there was a shooting here last night, another multiple shooting event. Just terrible. I don't know what is going on in America right now. But anyway, Walmarts typically have EV Go, which is, or Electrify America, depending on the different charging networks. So this one behind me that we're going to go look at is an Electrify America. And these stations are the ones that you would use to DC fast charge if you owned a car other than a Tesla. Basically, any other car is going to be coming to these to DC fast charge. And they use what's known as the CCS DC fast charging standard. And we're going to step out in a moment and see the big, big difference between that and Tesla's plug. It is a much clunkier plug. And we're also going to see some of the issues with these non-Tesla charging networks, DC fast charging networks. As I can tell you, this one behind me, yeah, no bueno, there's some problems. Now, I can't actually charge my Tesla here. I have to buy an adapter. That adapter is currently available only in South Korea. You can order them online. Hariumi is a site that tends to carry them, and they're about $300. I'm waiting for this to either kick off and me make a ton of cash on my YouTube channel, or for me to get some interest from you guys, and then maybe I'll go buy one. I gotta tell you, I'm itching to buy one. I have put it off because they're expensive, and I have other things I've spent my money on. One other thing I want to talk about briefly is DC fast charging times. Now, depending on the type of car you have, means you can charge faster or slower, depending on the make. Now, I see a Lucid pulling in right next to me right now, and I am at a 350 watt charger, and I'm going to want to make sure he gets all of that juice. So we're not going to take any juice from him, but we're going to talk about the charging standard. Now, charging speeds. The lower state of charge you are at will typically mean you will have a faster charging session until you reach a certain limit. Say, depending on the manufacturer, around 50% state of charge, you'll start to see a derate, or your charging speed will start to creep down. Now, depending on the make, manufacturer, battery size, how you've been driving, what the weather's like, all kinds of different factors will play into the speed of your charge. But if you want to see DC fast charging curves, a 0 to 100% charging curve, again, I would send you over to Out of Spec Reviews, Out of Spec Studios on YouTube, or Inside EVs. Tom Malogny on Inside EVs does excellent DC fast charging curves and range tests. You'll also find them on Out of Spec Reviews done by Kyle Connor and his crew. Excellent DC fast charging stuff if that's what you're interested in. I'm not going to do that here. All right, so we've talked about non-Tesla DC fast charging, the CCS standard, and so now we'll step outside and see what that looks like. All right, and here we are outside at the Walmart in Mount Vernon, Washington's Electrify America station. So I'm going to go ahead and show you what these look like, and we'll talk about some of the problems that people run into with these. So here we have this station is up to 150 kilowatts. You can see it labeled there. And here is what the CCS standard looks like. Now, those two large pins on the bottom are your DC fast charging pins. That's where the power comes to charge your car. And then the three smaller pins on top are communication pins that allow the car and the charger to talk to each other and know basically what's going on, how much power has been delivered, how much efficiency, etc., etc., etc. And you can obviously see, again, I'll show you again, very, very big difference between CCS and Tesla's plug-ins. Now, this is much heavier, I can tell you. The cables are liquid cooled. You get some issues with sagging and connecting, and unfortunately people don't take as good a care of this stuff as they should. Now, that's true everywhere, but because these handles are slightly clunkier and larger, they tend to break easier than the Tesla handle. But I digress. Why don't we go ahead and look at a couple issues on some of these chargers. You can see here on this station, it is a 350, two 350s, and it is unavailable. And there is another station besides me that has been derated, and I believe the gentleman is having a little bit of trouble. And then the other station on the other end with the CHAdeMO is working. So at this station right now, folks, we have two working 150s, no 350s that I can tell, one CHAdeMO, and one maybe 350. So out of 2, 4, 6, 8 chargers, there are maybe 3 available. So again, unfortunate situation, but one that I hope is fixed as more people drive EVs. It's very, very important that we're taking care of our infrastructure. Charging is probably one of the most important things that you consider when you buy your EV. So I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you learned something. I hope I didn't make it too long, and I will see you again when we maybe do a full self-drive around Chuckanut. Talk to you later. All right, so how about some final thoughts as we wrap up? So at that Electrify America station I was just at, I ran into a Chevy Bolt that was there charging, and the gentleman was borrowing it from his son. He normally drives a Tesla, and I asked him what he thought, and he kind of sneered at me about the experience he was having with the Electrify America, and well, just in general, the charging with the Bolt. So had that experience, and then as he was leaving, I had a Lucid Air Dream Edition pull in next to me, long range, not the performance. And the poor guy had to move from one 350 kilowatt charger to the other. His sessions kept timing out, and I left, and I'd forgot to take a thumbnail, so I came back. He was still there. He was kind enough to give me a tour of his car, which was awesome. He didn't want it on film, otherwise I would have shared with you. But he kept getting charging session errors and kept timing out. He didn't get more than probably 10 minutes worth of charge the whole time I was there, and I was there probably 20 minutes. So, again, we've got a long ways to go with third-party charging infrastructure, DC fast charging, that is non-Tesla supercharging. One other thing I'd add, I talked about the adapter. Boy, I'm just considering buying one just because, like, you meet the coolest people at chargers. And nothing against the Tesla supercharging experience. I love Tesla owners and the Tesla community, but most of us are so, like, used to it, and it's so easy. It's just kind of a ho-hum experience. You pull into a supercharger, everybody's kind of charging. It's just like da-da-da-da-da. Not a lot of talking anymore like it was in the early days, because there's a lot more owners on the road now, and, you know, people aren't quite as excited to maybe talk. They're just buying the car, not an enthusiast. But when you go to the Electrify America and the third-party CCS chargers, you get to run into all kinds of cool people. You see all kinds of new cars, and honestly, I like troubleshooting, so it's kind of like right up my alley to have that challenge of the charging station's not quite working right, helping other people to get their stuff working, figuring out why mine isn't working. So I may buy one just because I like the challenge and the experience, but hopefully you're seeing, again, the difference between Tesla supercharging and everybody else. It's going to get better, folks, I promise, but big reason why we bought a Tesla, again, the charging experience. I would hope that you'll enjoy this video. I'm going to put a link in the description to the Puget Sound Energy's website, which talks in more depth about EVs and BEVs, the charging that goes into it, what kind of setup you need for your home. And it's very, very simple to understand, so that'll also be in the description. Again, if you like this content, please subscribe. I'm trying to build this channel, build my skills, and so either follow my adventures teaching people about EVs and taking FSD drives, or my adventure learning to film and edit and dialogue. Anyway, I'll catch you in the next video.